I invite you to join me in a word of prayer. Almighty, we come once again grateful for your love towards us and your presence with us. We thank you this morning for drawing us. We thank you for holding us, providing for us, and for keeping us. And now, once again, we have an occasion to ask you to fill us for all the places you are preparing to send us. This we ask in your wonderful name. Amen. You may be seated. The apostles said to the Lord, "Increase our faith." It is certainly listening to those words and the readings and sacred texts that have been set before us about faith that my mind so often is taken back to preparing for worship, growing up with friends and families, part of choirs and processionals, where everyone with excitement was gathering, waiting to enter, looking forward to the assembly. In order that we might begin by singing, "We've come this far by faith," leaning on the Lord, trusting in His holy word, looking at each other and going on to remind each other that He's never failed us yet. It would rise and continue on until we would get to the part that says, "Can't turn around. We've come this far by faith." When I think about these words, those moments, what a time that we're living in. Coming before you now with government shutdown and coming before you with all that is floating in around us that we hear. It appears that we're living in an age right now that moves at the speed of light. Yet, if we're honest, it also appears that we are stumbling in the dark. Ours is a generation that has been captivated by the glitter of celebrity, the pursuit of power, the race for popularity, and the accumulation of possessions. There are far too many whose ultimate concern in this life is revealed not in their efforts to strengthen the depth of character, but in their desires to secure an extensive band of followers, whether it be in the physical crowds that might surround them and those that would cheer them, or in the easily accessible alternative digital reality that is simply entered into by the press of a button, the turning on of a camera, and simply in the palm of your hand. Here we are in an age where when we speak about service rendered in support of others or serving our neighbors, welcoming the strangers, helping those who are suffering from the weight of political policies and posturing, we're looking at many where that is not as important as the spotlight they may gain. It is unfortunate, but for many and in this generation, the applause of the crowd has become the measure of truth, rather than the scrutiny of evidence that accompanies any claim. We are living right now in the age of self, where image often outweighs the striving efforts for integrity, and where convenience has replaced conviction. We have to ask ourselves, why did we show up today? Why are we here today? What are we asking for today? Because truth is, we're all asking for something. Think about the list that you made before you left your house. Think about that which has remained unsaid in the neighbors that are around you. All of us came in with some kind of request. Unfortunately, daily life for many has been organized, managed, simply for the admiration of others, while they quietly are wrestling with an incapacitating emptiness within themselves. We put on airs for one another, look like we have it all together, but deep down inside, we're wrestling with the realities and the real depths and meanings of life. Humanity, in all of its progress, is still struggling with itself. It's still longing in search to uncover significant substance and meaning while chasing the mirage of more. If we're looking around and walking around, there are physical symbols and towers of achievement all around us. But while the headlines declare how much progress we're making and the accomplishments we have achieved along this ideological road that some want to call to become great again, there are a great number who can only hear the hollow echo of this perceived success. Once again, in opening up the sacred text and reading the words and hearing the statements that were made, I'm challenged once again and invite you to be challenged along with me by the firm sound of the gospel as it has moved across centuries into this present moment. In Luke's gospel, the social, the political, and the economical realities reflect a world that has been shaped by rigid social hierarchies, with deep religious expectations, a world shaped by substantial taxation, a world shaped by political elites and military power. If we're not careful, we're not talking about that world then, we could easily put it in the world right now. Social divisions were quite glaring. As you looked and even read and remember in that time, that the divisions were so glaring between the wealthy and the poor. Between, as they put the labels on it, the clean and the unclean. Those who were welcomed and those who were ostracized. Between the insiders and the outsiders. Those who had connections and those who didn't have connections. Here we are once again. I'm talking about that time, but I'm still talking about this time. Yet even with all of this going on, against the backdrop of all of those challenges, and with all that is happening, Jesus breaks in. Once again, against this backdrop, Jesus' teachings about faith, forgiveness, and the coming kingdom challenged systems of power, challenged and called for divine sensitivity and humility, challenged and called for and offered an awareness of hope to those living under oppression and those living with uncertainty. And no matter how much we would like to fool ourselves, all of us are in a moment where oppression is all around us. All of us are in here with a certain degree of uncertainty about what tomorrow will hold. But hear this request from the apostles. This request reveals something unique. This request was not an ordinary request. As it had taken place, Lord, increase our faith. You don't talk like this normally. This is not a common request. Lord, increase our faith. Think about it for a moment. Out of all the things that could have been asked for, out of all the things that could have been said, this reveals something quite unique had taken place. Something shifted in their perspective and view of life. This was a moment when the real concerns of life broke through the barriers that kept them focused on things that are horizontal, things that are planetary, things that are ordinary. And all of a sudden, something broke through where their concerns changed and they began to embrace something divine, something vertical, and it intersected with their current circumstances. Out of all that they could have asked for, the apostles, we hear the apostles cry out, increase our faith. These words rose above common and ordinary requests. They rose up and out of the conditions that they were in, pierced through the noise of their age. And if we're asking for something like that, they pierce through the concerns that we have that are ordinary, common, and everyday. Because what we're facing even in this moment, we need more than something common, something ordinary, and something routine. We need to pierce through the moment that we're in and ask for something that gets us off a horizontal plane, moves us into a vertical plane, and gives us both horizontal and vertical together. I pray you see the picture, even without me elaborating further. That even in a moment like this, we need more than just something we can hold in our hand, something that we can place in our pocket, something we can count in our bank accounts. We need something more in a moment like this. Lord, increase our faith. If I was only concerned with grammar, I would have the good words to describe it, but I must admit I struggled. And I was so captivated this time. I have read it before, but I was captivated this time in reading Increase Our Faith. With all that is around me, with the family that I see every day, with the friends I meet. Lord, increase our faith. I wasn't sure how to describe it, but if I were only concerned with grammar, these words can be described as an imperative statement, a rhetorical plea, a declarative request. But no matter how you look at it, all these words reveal to me was that something was missing. It revealed to me that because of an encounter with Jesus, they were acknowledging that we need more than just the ordinary. Most folk don't walk around talking like this. Something happened where they met someone who had them see more than what they've seen, hear more than what they've heard, challenge them to do more than what they've done, raise the language, their whole imagery, their whole thoughts. They asked for something that could not be satisfied by opening a refrigerator, by simply setting an ordinary table. They asked for something that could not be satisfied because they could pick it up along the way and just anywhere. Lord, increase our faith. Even while they're speaking in this way, the sociological, the political, the economic, the philosophical realities are all still present. But increase our faith means that there's been a theological encounter somewhere. Something was missing that they could only find with Jesus Christ. There are moments when in order to find ourselves, we have to look beyond ourselves. There are moments in order to find ourselves, we've got to get over ourselves. In order to find ourselves, we have to stop propping up ourselves. When we turn, and in moments like this, we are able to turn from the temporal to the transcendent. And we discover and rediscover who we truly have been created in the image of. Jesus shifts, he moves, and he challenges the quality of their faith by talking about the quantity of their faith. He tells them very quickly as the scene shifts, if they just had faith the size of a mustard seed, there would be some miraculous evidence of faith. Soon as he says that, the discourse takes a very rapid move that challenges their understanding of faith by sharing a witness of faith. He says, imagine, and just for a moment, walk with me. Imagine, he says, a worker coming in after a long day in the field. Imagine a worker, a servant, coming in after a long day of work. And the boss expects the worker, because I know you can imagine this, the boss expects the worker to prepare dinner, to serve the meal, to only eat after the owner, the boss, has eaten, without even saying thank you. You handle the ordinary. You have ideas, and it's not hard to imagine the hierarchies and the places that we all expect each other. Imagine not being invited to the table. Imagine eating in a separate room. Imagine going to the back door to get your food while some would come to the front door. Imagine that I'm better than you because of where you were born or what your skin looks. Imagine what it looks like. But he says instead, and it's right there at the beginning, imagine this: the servant being invited to sit down at the table and to eat first. Imagine the owner serving the servant. Imagine that one who has it all being able to share everything with the one who has little. Imagine switching roles. Imagine stepping out of your comfort. Imagine moving with faith. This may be hard because it would take a radical witness of faith. It may be hard because it would take a radical shift in the values that we have. Imagine because it would be difficult for many of us to give up something so that somebody can have a little something. Imagine that it would cause a shifting in a perception of roles. Imagine a world where our primary concern was for those most in need. He says, imagine taking care of the poor, helping the sick, taking care of the weak, bringing the marginalized closer, and welcoming the ostracized. Imagine communities that would be reshaped by compassion rather than by competition. Imagine resources that would flow not towards excess, but resources that would be used toward meeting real human needs. Imagine the shutdown ending tomorrow. Imagine leaders sitting down at the table talking to each other no matter what side you're on. Imagine the rich would see their abundance as a tool for healing rather than as an opportunity for hoarding. Imagine that the powerful would use their influence to lift folk up rather than to not push them down. Hopefully it's not too hard in a place like this to imagine. Walter Brueggemann, the noted author, and one of my favorite readings in the prophetic imagination, he speaks to the church's role in forming an alternative community, one that embodies God's vision in the midst of empire, where this community would live by a different set of values. This community would value justice over greed. This community would value service over status. This community would have shared hope and value shared hope over fear. If we lived like this, maybe hospitals would be places of welcome rather than barriers to care. If we lived like this, maybe neighborhoods would be safe havens rather than zones of exclusion. Maybe if we lived like this, people once pushed to the margin would find themselves at the center of concern. Such a world would reflect the heart of God's kingdom, where love overturns hierarchy, where generosity breaks down walls, where dignity is restored to every human life. It's not just a dream, but it's a prophetic call to imagine, and not just to imagine, but to live differently today. And so here I am. Lord, increase our faith. Thinking about those who I've walked with, those who I've talked with, those who are asking and reminding us we've come this far by faith. But even as I move from even the hymn to the contemporary, Lord, you promised if you keep my mind on you, you'd keep me in perfect peace. With a sincere heart, if I called upon your name, you'd never turn away from me. You said you'd give me everything I need. But that wonderful song says, I came for deliverance, and deliverance I receive. You said you'd deliver me, and that's what I believe. I came just to hear your word, and your word I will receive. You said you would send your word, and that's what I believe. And because I believe, I know a different day is coming. Because I believe, I know that we can turn this world around. Because I believe, I know all things are possible. Because that's what I believe. Lord, increase our faith.